Hey everyone, it's Tracy Martirani here from Holistic Wellness with Tracy. Welcome back to my channel. Today we are making yogurt and granola. If you've been around my channel a while, you know I make a lot of from scratch meals. I love to cook healthy homemade meals. But I decided in 2026 to do a new series of videos that I'm just calling From Scratch, where I'm making items that most people would probably buy from the grocery store, but instead we're making them together. This is what I use to make yogurt. I use my Instant Pot because it has a yogurt button. Basically, you put everything in, 8 hours later, you have yogurt. I like to use 2% milk. You can use whole milk. I've never tried it with 1%, so I'm not sure how it comes out. You need ultra pasteurized. So if you buy organic milk, it's going to be ultra pasteurized. If you want to make yogurt using regular pasteurized milk or raw milk, this is not the process you'd follow. You need an extra step of bringing the milk up to boil to kill any possible contaminants in it. Since it's ultra pasteurized, somebody else already did that for me. You need some sort of sweetener. Actually, I pulled out the maple syrup, but I think I'm actually going to use honey. You could also use a little bit of sugar. You can use sweetened condensed milk. As a matter of fact, the first recipe that I ever followed for this used sweetened condensed milk. You need some sort of starter. You can just buy yogurt culture that comes sort of like yeast, but I find I never have that on hand, so I just pick up a plain yogurt that has lots of probiotics in it already. And then once you make this, you just pull out and save a little bit of your last batch to feed your next batch. So you don't really need this every time, just the first time. A whisk, just to whisk it all together. I bought this strainer. It's a Euro cuisine strainer, yogurt strainer. You can also just use a colander with cheesecloth. And you really only need this if you want it thicker, like a Greek yogurt. If you want like a nice runny yogurt to just spoon over fruit, you don't need this at all. And then when all is said and done, I like to add a little vanilla extract, but you can use other flavors as well. If you don't have an Instant Pot, you can actually buy yoga makers. I just don't like having any sort of appliance-y gadget in the kitchen that only does one thing, so I like the Instant Pot. Because my honey is very solid at the moment, I am going to just hit the keep warm button and let that warm up just a tad so that my honey will sort of melt down a little bit when I add it to the container. You don't want honey to cook and get hot, so we just want it warm, not boiling. We just need a little heat. And then I'm just going to add in, I don't measure. I'm just going to add in a little scoop of honey because I don't like mine overly sweetened. I would say if you like it really sweet, maybe 3 or 4 tablespoons, maybe even up to a half a cup. You really have to test it out a little bit. I prefer my yogurts to be on the less sweet side, and then I like to sweeten it while I'm eating it with either, fresh fruit or whatever else along those lines. I have tried to make it without any sweetener at all, and it doesn't work. You need a little bit of sweetener to feed the bacteria. And then if you're using a yogurt starter, just follow the instructions that came with it. It's probably going to be like a teaspoon or half a teaspoon to a teaspoon of the starter. If you're just using some previously made yogurt, you really just need a tablespoon or 2. I usually just keep a little container of my previous yogurt in the fridge for the next batch, but I haven't made yogurt in a while, so I didn't have any. And then lastly, I have my half gallon of organic milk. Add that in. And then just whisk it together. Mostly I'm just trying to make sure that honey is sort of diluted into the milk. And of course, I guess to spread out the yoga starter and get that well incorporated. And then put the top on. You want it vented. We're not pressure cooking. We are just warming. Hit the yogurt button and wait 8 hours. It even counts it down for you. When the granola jar gets empty, we make a new batch. I love this recipe because it is super simple and very customizable. I'm going to start with about 3 cups of old-fashioned oats. You don't want to use quick oats and you don't want to use steel cut. Old-fashioned is the way to go. So 3 cups. And then about a cup of some sort of nut / seed mixture. I have pecans, I have slivered almonds, I have pumpkin seeds or pepitas. That's what I'm going to use. And it's just eyeball. You can use more than a cup. You can use less than a cup. You could go like a full 2 cups. So let's just see. Right. Now these were halves, so I might crack a few of them in half, leave some whole halves. Again, I'm just breaking a few of them up. Nice slivered almonds. So that's close to a cup right there. So we're definitely going over because then I'm adding in pumpkin seeds. A good handful, probably another 1/4 cup. All right, I might even add in a few more pecans. I like lots of stuff in my granola, but you can always have as much or as little as you want. I'm just doing the nuts now. I'm later going to add craisins, but that's after it's baked. So to this, I need to add some oil. I have coconut oil that I melted. You could also use avocado oil. I see people say they use sometimes olive oil. I think that flavor is too strong. So I'm doing like a scant 1/2 cup. A little shy. And then sweetener, I'm using maple syrup. You could use honey. You could use agave nectar. Really, you could even use corn syrup if you happen to have a bunch in your pantry from pecan pie over the holidays that you're trying to get rid of. It's the same with this scant 1/2 cup, more or less to your tasting. You need a decent amount of salt. I'm doing about a 1/2 teaspoon of my kosher salt. And then when it comes to cinnamon, sort of like garlic, I like to measure cinnamon, with my heart. But I'm going to start, let's just see with a teaspoon how much that looks like. Maybe a rounded teaspoon. Yeah, I'm going to say 2 teaspoons. Again, more or less. You could also omit it completely. You could use pumpkin pie spice or like your own mixture of like cloves and allspice. I'm going to mix this all together. You want to make sure that all of the ingredients are coated in the oil and the maple syrup. So they're nice and damp, glistening, lightly glistening. And then we're just transferring it to a parchment-lined baking dish, something with edges on it. Spread it out. So just sort of spread it all out to fill the pan. Trying to make sure it's like a level, that you don't have a big hump of it in one place and a very scant part in another. So just evenly distributing it over the pan. And now this is going to bake for about 20 to 25 minutes at 350, but we're going to come back to it halfway through and flip it around. So after about 12 minutes of baking, I'm pulling it out and just sort of stirring it around, flipping it over. And then spread it back out. And now just so that I can possibly have a few clumps, I'm pressing it down. I find this isn't a very clumpy recipe, like you don't get big clumps of the granola, but it's still really tasty. And then back in the oven for another 12 minutes or so. So it's done baking. You can see it's like a nice golden brown. I'm going to leave it sit here for about an hour to cool. I want it completely cool before I break it up and put it in my granola jar. So now it's cooled. I'm going to add some craisins. You could also add raisins, other dried fruit. You could even sprinkle in like chocolate chips or M&Ms. And then very carefully put it into an airtight container. I can never do this without making a mess. Oh, good. I did get some clumps. Delish. So the yogurt's all done. It's 8 hours later. Just gonna open this up. I have my Euro cuisine strainer. Again, if you don't have one of these, you can just use a metal colander with some cheesecloth. I'm just going to pour this in. I cover this up, stick it in the fridge, and we will revisit it in the morning. It is now the next day. This is set overnight in the fridge. It really only needs an hour or two. Overnight is actually a little too long, and it comes out really, really thick. So I'm going to just scrape it into here, and then we'll figure out what we want to do with it. You'll see what I mean. You see how thick? So it's pretty thick. If you like it this thick, then that's what you do. You leave it right here. You call it good. I am going to add a little vanilla. You can use as much or as little as you want, or skip it altogether. I usually do, well, that was a good, about 2 tablespoons. That was a little more. Stir that in. Now that might just liquefy it enough where you're like, that is good. If you still think it's a little too thick, or you just want to make sure that there's lots and lots of good bacteria in here, you can then even add a spoonful or 2 of your whey back in. Just scoop it out, add it in, stir it around. Now this way you can just dump it out, but it's again full of good bacteria. So if you have a compost pile, add it to your compost, even put it out in your gardens. You can cook with it to add some bacteria and like maybe add it into some oatmeal. You can do whatever you want. There's lots of options, but so there it is. Delicious vanilla yogurt, ready to go. A little yogurt, grab the homemade granola. Perfect for a light breakfast, a little snack, make a parfait, serve it over oatmeal. There's so much you could do with both the yogurt, the granola. You could even just stick in a bowl, add some milk to it, or just eat it by the handful. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you have a great day.